All right, so hi Chisom, and in
Hi,
today's
brother.
video, in today's video, we're going to be discussing with Chisom, and she was going to be telling us just how to land your first job in tech, how to get a tech internship if you're a student, and those things surrounding people who want to break into big tech or into international firms and organizations, right? So, hi again, Chisom. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your career background, and just what you do generally?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for having me. So my name is Chisom. I consider myself a couple of things because I do multiple things. So first of all, I am a software engineer at Microsoft. I work on the Windows engineering team. And what I'm currently involved in is helping to make sure that Microsoft is carbon efficient by 2030. And so I work in the capacity of a big data engineer. So what I do is majorly tracking analytics and understanding adoption of our features on the Windows operating system. And outside Microsoft, I am also a published author. I have a book that's currently helping people land jobs at international companies. This is something that I think I figured out the hack to do when I was applying for jobs like this, and I want people to join me in applying for these kind of jobs and working at these kind of companies. So I have a book on that. Aside that, I'm also a YouTuber. I recently is it recently? I have a YouTube channel. It's like 1 year now, and I just opened that channel to share a lot of things because I see myself speaking to a lot of people. So I have a channel that I share like my life as a software engineer, my life as a woman in tech. I do vlogs as well, lifestyle and all of that. So yeah, and public speaking too. I speak a lot. I don't consider myself a talkative, but I speak a lot. So yeah, that's basically all about me in a nutshell.
All right. Thank you very much, Chisom. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you, and there'll be like a kind of progression, right? So the first question I'd like to ask
Yeah.
you is just build some kind of foundation. So let's say, for example, there is a student who
Mhm.
did not study computer science, but they're looking to break into tech.
Yeah.
They're looking to start a tech career. How would you suggest is the most
Yes.
effective or efficient way for that kind of person to learn how to code and just to break into tech without any kind of relevant background in computer science?
So that's a really good question. It's also a popular question as well. Breaking into tech without necessarily being a CS student. I think recently computer science wasn't this glamorized the way it is now. Even when I was studying computer science, I didn't know that it was I was actually a special child or a special BSc holder. But yeah, if you're watching this and you didn't study CS, it doesn't actually matter because I can boldly say I have friends who didn't study CS. I mean, they studied microbiology, library and information science, and all these things, and they're amazing engineers. But it's kind of I won't say there is a path to actually navigating a career in tech if you did not do CS because it's relative to a couple of people. Some people stumble on careers in tech through their friends. Let's say you have a friend that is doing product design, your friend is teaching you some little jobs here and there. You finally learn something, you get like an internship that's not even paid, you get experience with that. And before you know it, you moved from being an accountant to a product designer, right? Just like that. And some other people go the route of like attending boot camps. They go to boot camps, they learn like OOP programming languages, they learn how to build one or two software projects. And before you know it, they have a software engineering title and they've gotten their first job through their boot camp. So I think it's making like intentional effort to know that okay, I'm not really in this field, but I know people that are doing this thing, right? So the first step I would want anybody like that to take is look for people that are like you. Look for people that didn't study CS and see what they're doing. I'm not saying that you should bombard their DM, but try to understand like their career story, right? Ask around. Do you have a friend that did this, or do you have a friend that did that? How did they transition? Because these stories are very, very relative. And also, when you find these kind of people, do some research on the kind of field that you want to get into. Now, don't avoid fields that maybe require something like computer science, because most of the time what we see on the internet isn't so accurate. So people, you might, it's very natural to avoid fields that have like, oh, BSc requirements in CS or engineering. So do like a very broad exploration of fields in tech and understand the kind of field that you want to go into. Let's say I studied microbiology, for instance, and I want to be a software engineer. Look for what a software engineer does and look for how you can start learning those things. So you can either go the self-taught route, or you can either go like the boot camp route where you pay some money to do these things. But at the end of the day, what will help you 100% are communities, joining communities. I can bet you that almost all the communities that I know have 20% computer science students there, but you see people that are doing amazing things that didn't even study CS. So when you join a community and you're introducing yourself, you're saying that, oh, I didn't study CS, and you have a ton of people that didn't do that thing too, and they can literally guide you. So the first thing is looking for people that are doing what you're doing, people that transitioned, choosing a particular field in tech that you want to focus on, look for people that you can shadow, join a community, and also look for boot camps that you can pay for, or if you want to be a self-taught. I don't really recommend the self-taught route if you are still new in this space, because you end up wasting a lot of your time. So if you can get some cash, sign up for a boot camp and at least get that foundational knowledge, then you can grow from there.
Oh, awesome. That's a very detailed answer, right? But I have another question that is kind of like riding off what you just said. So, okay, peradventure the person is
Okay.
done doing a boot camp now, but you're looking to then get an internship, but you do not have any experience. How then would you advise
Yeah.
that kind of that problem or that gap is navigated? How do you apply for tech internships without any kind of experience, either relevant or not?
Yeah, I think that problem is for both people that did CS and people that didn't do CS, because I had that problem as well. All the jobs that I got, I didn't have experience. The only thing on my resume was the internship I did at AppTech, and that wasn't even an internship. It was like a learning academy where I had to learn to build. It wasn't really an internship, but I added that too. So for the experience talk, I would say that so many things have changed in the industry. Companies, I was telling someone that in 2015, you can build like a simple to-do list on a web app, apply for a job, and they're already sending you contracts for salary they're going to pay you. But you can't try it now because people are building so many things. People are building extraordinary things. So it's a bit harder now to get like internships without experience, because the how do I put it now? The criteria has increased, right? What's expected of you has increased. So I would advise people, if you want to get a job without experience, try to focus on building projects that actually showcase your experience. And that's exactly what I did. I currently have an app on Play Store, on Google Play Store, and I built this app in my second year in the university. And so this application filled in that gap that I had for like my work experience. So this was more like personal experience than work experience. So try to build projects that you can talk about. Don't build very simple projects that is so easy. Build projects that you can explain the architecture, projects that you can explain challenges that you faced, because that's what interviewers want to hear. And if you see that you can't build these projects by yourself, try to collaborate to build. Let's say you're a front end person and you have this massive idea that needs a lot of back end work. Look for a back end engineer that would collaborate with you to build that project. And if you feel that it's not good enough, look for a PM that would do like user research to make sure that your project's actually solving a problem. And that's at the end of the day, your project needs to solve a problem. So when you do all these things, you're showing the company that you have collaboration experience, you have technical experience, you're able to be a team player, you're able to lead a team, and you can think of something from scratch and build from there. So this is where communities come in, because you can't just find these people on the road and tell the person, okay, please come and build this project with me. No, you have a community that you can join, and you put up a call for participation. Hi, I'm working on a project. I need this person, this person, this person. Anybody that's interested, please reach out to me. And you have a ton of people that you can work with. So I think everybody should go the project route, this, especially this period with the whole AI thing going on. So many things are happening in the industry. If you want to actually stand out, you have to do something that makes you unique.
All right, thank you, Chisom, for that for that answer. Right. So moving on. So I think when I was looking at your LinkedIn, I noticed that you did an internship at
Yeah,
Bank of America. Then you're currently at
yeah,
Microsoft, right? So what kind of
yeah.
tips would you give people who are looking to actually break into big tech or global organizations? How would you suggest that they position themselves, or how would you suggest that they become more employable in order to increase their chances of getting this kind of opportunities?
Yeah. Okay. For big tech, I think it's the same dynamic, but you have to put in a lot more effort and a lot more. You just have to sprinkle some extra, some extra things on it, right? So for big tech, where do I even start? For big tech, it's something that was progressive for me. I didn't just wake up and say, okay, I want to work at a big tech company, and maybe the next day I applied and I got a no. It was something that started from my third year in school, having that vision of where I want to work. And how did this start? I met friends on a WhatsApp platform that had the same vision that I had of working at like huge tech companies, and we formed like a group chat together, and we started applying to these companies. So the first thing is, if I didn't meet those people, I wouldn't have thought it was possible to work at that to work at these kind of companies that early, because I remember when I'll be telling my parents that, oh, I want to work at Microsoft when I'm a senior engineer, maybe after working for like 5 6 years at another company, Microsoft will employ me. So I didn't really think that this would come this early, but it did. So I met people that shared that same vision with me, and so it made me think that these things were possible. So as a student, I tried to make sure that I wasn't just a class student. I made sure that I was an all-rounder. I made sure that my leadership experience was okay. I made sure that my CGPA was okay. I didn't finish with the first class, but I finished with a good grade. That was like a 2-1, I think. Yeah, that was like 2-1. So I made sure that I was taking like certifications I could get my hands on. I made sure that I was building projects. I also made sure that my LinkedIn and everything was very, very polished. So as a student, you can take the excuse of saying, oh, I'm a student, not a lot is expected of me. I don't have work experience yet. I'm just starting out. But at the end of the day, these people expect a lot from you. So it's branding on all ends. It's how you brand your resume, it's how you brand your cover letter, it's how you brand your application, it's how you brand your LinkedIn profile. It's also how you brand your technical abilities. I know people that know more than me or have experience in coding more than me, but we can sit for the same interview and they'll most likely go with me, and I don't even know as much as them. Why? Because I'm able to communicate the kind of things I can do, the challenges that I faced, and just to tell a story around that line. And the other person might not be able to do that. So I always tell people, as much as you're a very seasoned programmer, try to work on your soft skills. These companies care a lot about soft skills. So even if they give you a coding test and you're doing so great in it, if they see that you cannot hold a conversation, if they see that you're arguing when you're trying to solve the coding problem, or if they see that they're not just feeling your vibe, that can be a turn off for them. It might not be, you can say, oh, I passed the interview, I passed the test. That can just be a turn off for them. So I would say the first thing is focus on your technical skills. Try to make sure that you have good projects in your belt, like I mentioned before. When you're done with that foundation, try to focus on branding in terms of like your resume. Make sure that your resume is highlighting things that you want your recruiter to see. As a graduate, you're not meant to have a resume more than one page, because I mean, why would your resume be more than one page? What exactly are you writing on your resume? Try to make sure that everything is to the T. If you're applying for a software engineering role, don't put leadership under leadership positions. I was the fellowship lead in my church and we were organizing praise and worship. No, things like that are good, but they are not it's out of context for what you're applying
It's not
for.
relevant.
So try to put things that, yeah, it's not relevant. Try to put things that are relevant to the role that you're applying for. In school, we had NACOS, National Association of Computer Science Students, and I was the director of software for UNN. I put that there because I was the director of software. If I was probably director of socials or director of games, me personally, I wouldn't want to include that in my resume because I don't think it's relevant. So putting things that are relevant to the job role, if you know some certain kind of programming languages and the company is asking for those kind of programming languages, please include that. Try to make sure that the job description and your resume have some similarities in terms of keywords. Now, the ATS and all those recruitment scanners and all of that. And when you're done, you can do all these things and be successful in it, but you might not still get in. Why? Because probably the applications are a lot. Probably they picked someone with more experience than you, and probably things didn't just work out. So this is where you start looking for referrals. And I'm saying referrals as a last resort because even before you ask for a referral, you need to be prepared. If you're asking for a referral out of the blues without fixing your resume, it will not work. You most likely be wasting that referral slot. So for me, it happened similarly, and I was ready for the role. I applied, but I didn't get a call back, and my resume was really, really good. I can literally vouch for it. So someone reached out to me from LinkedIn, and she mentioned that she's been seeing my work on LinkedIn. I've been writing articles because at that time I was learning Android development. I've been writing articles. I've been posting about those articles. I even did 100 Days of Code at some point. So I was always on LinkedIn in 2020. And so she said she would like to refer me for a graduate role at Microsoft. And that was good because if I wasn't active on LinkedIn, she probably wouldn't have seen me. So that referral was my last resort. And when I sent my resume to her, she just gave it a thumbs up and she said, I will go ahead to refer you. She didn't need, in fact, she already convinced herself that she wanted to refer me. I didn't need to convince her to refer me. And that was a good thing. And I feel like that's how it should be for you as well. And I think when she referred me, it literally took my application out of the bubble and it made the application successful. So for applying for big tech, international companies in general, you need to do the most. You need to be very audacious in the things that you do. During your interviews, don't be too shallow, don't be too quiet. Try to showcase as much confidence and enthusiasm as much as possible. Do company research and all of that. So I think that's what led to me writing the book because when I wanted to start telling people how to get into big tech, I would see myself talking like this for hours. And I would do that over and over again for different people. So I'm like, no, I can't do this. I need to put this into a resource where people can just check out. So I was thinking of a YouTube video and all of that, but it ended up as a book. So the book has everything in detail that you might need if you want to work for a big tech company.
Okay, that's great. So, for people who are interested in, say, getting access to the book, right? How would they be able to access that?
Yeah, for international students or international audience, it's on Amazon. You can get the book on Kindle or hard copy print on Amazon. So if you're in Nigeria, you can order from Seller. I have the link on my website, chisomoko.com. So you can go there and order the book on Seller, the ebook, or the hard copy, then to get delivered to you.
Okay, great. So you had also mentioned that one of the things that you did when you were looking to apply to these organizations was you made sure that you're taking certifications. So, what kind of certifications do you think are important for someone who is interested in breaking into tech?
Um, For certifications, I focused on IT certifications. At that time, I didn't know that it's software engineering that I would do. I just knew that I was a CS student. So I was taking certifications around the courses I was doing, like data structures and algorithms, certifications around project management too, because that's some of the things they taught us in school. I was taking certifications around IT support, the general computer science syllables. I also took certifications on the cloud, that's Azure fundamentals, sorry, to learn about cloud fundamentals. So I didn't have any specific like maybe cybersecurity or cloud engineering or all of that. I just took like general certifications that maybe I wrote exams on, or I wrote tests on, or stuff like that. Then the Android certification as well. So those certifications that can actually speak for themselves, not necessarily course completion certifications, but maybe you wrote an exam, you created a project, you finished a class. Those really heavy certifications, I think those are the ones that can give you an edge.
Okay. All right, that's great. So you had also mentioned communities and boot camps. Can you just like name drop and mention a few that you know that they are really good that people can consider joining or applying for?
Yeah, as much as I know a couple of communities, whenever I'm asked this question to mention them, I'm like, I get like memory loss. Sorry. But not to be biased, I'll start with like the female communities I know. I know about She Code Africa. I feel like if you're a lady in tech, student, married, single, 40s, joining these kind of communities would help you. She Code Africa, there's WeTech, there is there's GDG, like Google Developers Group. It's not like a full-fledged online community, but they have events that can help you. Then there is Nexus Scale, that's Adora's community. Then there is, I can't really think of, I've actually forgotten some of them, but there are a couple of communities that help you. So depending on the kind of thing that you want to do, there are cybersecurity communities as well. There are data communities. There are Android development communities. So just a quick ask on Twitter or on LinkedIn, you can get links to like these WhatsApp groups, and you can just take it from there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So kind of leading up to my last question, right? I feel like you've kind of touched on it a bit. I was going to ask you for like
Yeah.
interview tips for people who are interviewing for tech
Oh,
roles. I feel like you mentioned a few, but if you can just mention more, that would be useful for people.
for interviewing tips, tech roles, depending on the company and depending on the role as well. So this might differ, but I'll just give you like the generic interview pattern I noticed for most companies. So it usually starts with a coding test where they send you like a link to complete a coding test. So this might be on Codility or HackerRank. Most companies use HackerRank now. So they'll send you a test about three questions for you to complete, like data structures and algorithm questions. And so you can submit these questions. You might not see your score, but they would actually start checking your code and everything. Some companies care if your code runs. Some companies don't care if your code runs. They just want to see the way you write code and the way you think. But at the end of the day, please make sure that your code runs, please. At the end of the day. So when you're done with that and the company has gotten your results and they feel like they should move you to the next level, the next thing is usually like a phone call interview. So that first interview is just to filter out candidates really fast. So the second interview is usually like a phone call interview where they call you. And for me, the first mistake I made with this interview type of interview was I didn't know that there's anything like a phone call interview. I thought I was just basically having conversation with the recruiter, but I didn't know that was actually an interview. So I was very nonchalant about it. But if you're watching this and you're like me, please, a phone call interview is an actual interview where you need to have precise answers to precise questions, right? So you're not just talking out of the blues. So they'll ask you things like, tell me about yourself, tell me about your background, tell me about your interests, just, just those very casual questions. So you shouldn't be too relaxed or too absent-minded while doing that interview. So when they're good, when they've seen that okay, you can code, you can hold a conversation, they now invite you for the final set of interviews, depending on the company. So it's usually series of coding interviews where you write code, and this time around you're not just writing code alone, you're writing code with someone face to face, and you guys are trying to debug or trying to solve the problem together. So this happens three times with three different people, three different questions. So when you pass these three stages, the last stage is usually with the hiring manager, and this is where they actually decide if you're going to work for the company. So some people don't get to the third stage, some people don't get to the final stage. But if you get to the final stage and you speak with someone else that's a manager, then you have like a very high chance of, you know, working for the company. So in between these stages, you get things like behavioral interviews where they're asking you things like, oh, how can you manage conflict? How can you how do you react if the idea you brought up is shunned by everybody, or maybe people don't like your idea, or people just tell you like a big no. How do you react, right? So they're checking human they're checking your behavioral qualities in working for a company. Then, if it's an engineering role, you're also going to be doing system design, where they're going to be asking you how you can design a system, things like catching, load balancing, architecture, scaling, and all those system design topics. So you need to deliver in that capacity as well. So for interviewing, try to make sure that you have covered every single topic. I know it's a lot, but don't go to the interview saying, oh, they won't really ask this, or this is the one I can do. No. Please take your time to prepare for your interviews. Always ask the interviewer for materials before you start preparing for the interview so you have more clarity on what you're getting yourself into. Try to research about the company because they want to see that in your answers you have interest in the company. Let's say I want to work for a company like Netflix now. I need to know the kind of architecture Netflix uses to model their recommendation system. Those things show that you're actually interested in this company. So do company research. And as much as you're asking you questions, try to ask them questions as well. Why do you like working for the company? What is like the company's ROI and all of that? So it's a two-way thing. And yeah, I feel like all of that tips should be in the book. They're very like detailed and highlighted there.
All right, thank you. Very excellent and precise answers, Chisom. So, if people are looking to connect with you, or maybe they have follow up questions, or they just want to follow you on LinkedIn to see your posts and just catch up with you, how can we find you on the internet?
So on Twitter I am Tech Queen, Tech underscore Queen. That's a very special name. Tech underscore Queen. And Instagram I am Chisom underscore NW. On LinkedIn I'm on Chisom Woku, that's Chisom NWOKW, and on YouTube is still Chisom Woku. So yeah, any of these platforms are okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for the time, Chisom.
Thank you for having me.